need the migrants that would make this trip to hear this message and to think twice, to not make this trip.
The dangers of immigration, brutal heat, scamming coyotes, and the number of migrants being sexually assaulted is also going up. The warning this week from Border Patrol. I'm Dami Virgen with Sinclair Broadcasting in San Antonio, Texas, with a new edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. The headlines lately have been on anything but the crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. But that doesn't mean that the number of people crossing the U.S. border has gone down. Acting Chief Juan Bernal with CBP, or Border Patrol, in the Rio Sector of Texas, shares with us now what they are seeing as the hottest parts of the summer are now beating down on migrants and law enforcement alike, and new outcries of rape that are being received. Let's start off with how you guys are doing. What are you seeing? I know DPS sources that give us information daily basis are telling us about 1,500 that you guys are getting a lot of people coming through daily. They're telling me about 1,500, but I take it all with a grain of salt. So how busy are you guys? Are you more busy than you were a month ago, or how are you doing year to date so far?
It's very important to us, as you know, border security is what we do, and it's very important to us that we get the word out to the community so that they know what we're seeing out here and what we're dealing with. We have continued to stay busy down here on the southern border. We are currently up to about 270,000 apprehensions as of May 31st for fiscal year 23. And when you compare that to previous years, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, fiscal year 22, we ended the year with 480,000 apprehensions here in the Del Rio sector alone. And fiscal year 21, we ended the year with 259,000 apprehensions in fiscal year 21 alone here in the Del Rio sector. So when you compare it to FY21 and FY22, we're definitely busier than we were in FY21. And with our current volume of traffic, I don't think that we're going to beat the 480,000 that we ended the year in fiscal year 22 with, but it might get close.
Talk to me about all the dangers that people, and we talk about this constantly, but all the dangers that people are facing now when they try to come across. And it's the middle of the summer, and heat index here hit 117 the other day. So I'm assuming your heat index is higher than that at the border. So talk to us about what's going on and how the temperatures also, are added into all the unexpected things that could go wrong and how it affects people and any other dangers that they're facing right now.
I know that this is a topic that we cover quite a bit, but I think it's important that we continue to relay this. If nothing else, I wanted to serve as a public service announcement for those who are considering making the journey up here, trying to enter the country illegally. What we've seen, and it's extremely concerning, is fiscal year 22, we ended the year with 256 deaths. So, 100 more, and we would have had a dead body a day. That's pretty alarming, and it's definitely something we want to avoid and do whatever we can to mitigate that. Already this fiscal year, as of May 31st for fiscal year 23, we were at 67 deaths encountered in the field. And we hadn't even entered the what we call the dangerous season for deaths and for rescues out in the field. We are entering that now. The temperatures have gone up. We're hitting daily temperatures of 100 or more, and we're starting to see a significant increase in 911 calls. Del Rio sector, so far this fiscal year, we're up to 582. That's about an average of 70 911 calls per month as of May 31st, fiscal year 23. It's a significant number of rescues and 911 calls that our agents respond to. And if we're lucky, we're able to save the individuals who are making the call. But as I've already mentioned, unfortunately, 67 of those so far as of fiscal year 23, May 31st, we were not successful in rescuing, and we got there too late.
Talk to me about the dangers when people are also traveling once they get to the border, which I don't think anybody would be surprised that I have argued before when, at the end of COVID, we were down in Laredo and we were telling them it is very dangerous in Mexico. And we got some pushback back then from, the people that were in charge back then federally that Mexico isn't dangerous. Well, I think we all know now, we can all agree that, staying at the border, especially in family units, especially women, it is dangerous. The cartels are in charge. So what are some of those dangers that people run into if they decide to come up? Because they don't just walk in unless they're going to come illegally. If they have to stay at the border on the Mexican side, what are some of the dangers that they're facing?
Absolutely. So what we've seen historically is that this trek, it's a dangerous journey. Individuals who try to come up from South Central America through the Darien Gap, up through Mexico, up through the Northern Triangle countries, are subjected to harsh environments at the hands of the smugglers. Many times they're forced to sleep and stay in stash houses that are not suitable for humans to reside in. And it's a long journey. They may not be eating and sleeping well. Very, very unhealthy environments for a human being to be subjected to. And along the way, they also face other threats. And something that is extremely alarming to us at this point in time is the number of sexual abuse allegations. We have had a total of 24 sexual abuse allegations so far this fiscal year to date. 14 of those have been reported to us in the last 45 days. That's a 60% increase when compared to the beginning of the year. So we're seeing an alarming number of sexual abuse allegations that occur as they're making the journey to the U.S. southern border.
So let me ask you, and this is not alone for the Mexico-U.S. border. This happens in Panama and Colombia when people are crossing through the jungle. A lot of women are raped or murdered. So along the way, there's a lot of these dangers going on. When they make it here, is there anything you guys can do? Can you really charge anyone?
What we do is every time the Border Patrol receives one of these allegations of sexual abuse, we take it extremely serious. We work with our partners on the south side in Mexico or whichever foreign country that the alleged rape took place in. We reach out to the consulate or to our foreign partners in those countries. We relay the information. And they in turn open up an investigation, and we try to find the people who are responsible for this. We conduct detailed interviews and debriefs of the individuals who are making these allegations. And one thing I'd like to clarify is it's not just the women who are being sexually abused. We have had allegations made by men as well that claim to have been sexually abused and raped at some point in the journey. So it's happening to all migrants. And it's an alarming number. And we want to make sure that we get the word out so that everybody understands the dangers of entering the country illegally. It's not just the environmental exposure. It's not just the risk of drowning in the river when you're making your entry, but you're also exposing yourself to the harsh environments that the smugglers present to you and the potential for some type of sexual abuse.
What about children as far as abuse and or human trafficking of these children? Have you heard some of that going on?
So I don't think it's not a secret that individuals being smuggled of all ages, tender age, young children, women of all ages, men of all ages, are all subjected to potential sexual abuse along the way. Some of them are also being trafficked, and some of that is sexual in nature. So there are extreme dangers when you put yourself in the hands of smugglers. And we want to make sure that we continue to remind everybody that it's not worth it. There is a CBP One app. There's processes and protocols in place to enter the country legally. And we would much rather migrants attempting to enter the U.S. do it legally and not put themselves at risk.
Okay. What else are you seeing right now in your neck of the woods? You know, we get reports of different things going down the river the other way, but here in the Del Rio sector, what do you think the biggest issue is right now for the migrants waiting to come in?
I think the biggest concern right now is that the migrants who are entering illegally, they're doing one of two things. They're either turning themselves in which case they're doing it in very large groups, and that takes a while for us to transport them and get them out of the elements. And we're encountering a lot of environment health concerns out there. And the reason that is because some of these groups are hundreds. We're talking hundreds of individuals that cross the border illegally, turn themselves in, and it takes us a while to gather up the resources and transport them out of the elements. The other risk that we're seeing regularly is those who are attempting to avoid detection, and they put themselves in harm's way by crossing the river in remote areas where there is no Border Patrol presence or we have a limited presence, and then trying to cross through the desert in extreme heat, and they find themselves in situations where they end up making the 911 calls, and then our challenge is to go out there and locate them and rescue them.
As far as the people that are trying to cross under the radar, what's the biggest challenge there? And why would anybody do that right now if you guys have CBP1? If you can explain that, I know why, but I want people to understand why people still come in under the radar.
There's a variety of factors that come into play on the individuals who do not turn themselves in. They could be individuals who have criminal history, who are maybe wanted in the U.S. or have been previously deported and convicted of a felony, and they're trying to evade detection so that we do not encounter them, arrest them, and then remove them back to their countries again. We also have individuals who maybe don't understand the immigration system and are a little impatient with it, and therefore choose to take the risk and try to avoid detection. And in those cases there, you know, it could be tragic, because if they just took a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and utilized the legal pathways, then they may be able to achieve the same outcome as they would if they entered illegally and were not encountered.
And then the ones that are not encountered, they still have to go across. How many chases are you all seeing? I know that we talked to all the sheriffs a lot, Kinney County, Maverick County, Uvalde. I mean, you name it. We're talking to all the sheriffs and the number of chases that are going on. Talk to people that don't know. And sometimes I know the questions seem kind of stupid, but there's people that don't get it, what you guys are facing right now out there. I mean, they're shocked. We just did a story that we had video from the ranchers with the chases and people crashing through their fences, and people were just shocked that this happens out here. So what are you seeing when it comes to all of that?
Just met with the U.S. Attorney's Office here locally in the Del Rio area, and also in working with our state and local partners. And what I can tell you is those who fail to yield and those who force us to pursue them in let's say, a vehicle, and that results in an accident, or even if it doesn't result in an accident or any additional damage, they are going to be subjected to a consequence. We're going to pursue legal consequences to the fullest extent of the law, whether it be federal or state and local charges. That is something that I can guarantee you, especially when they put other human lives at risk, not just the U.S. citizens in the areas that they are being pursued through, but also the migrants that they're smuggling in their own vehicles. They're putting them in danger, and we're not going to stand for that. We're definitely going to apply legal consequences every opportunity that we have.
When the women or the men or anybody makes an outcry to you guys, what do you normally do? What is the process?
I mentioned how serious we take these allegations of sexual abuse. We have developed an internal operating procedure here in the Del Rio sector. Every time that we receive an allegation of sexual abuse, we send out specially trained individuals from our sector intel unit to debrief the individuals making the allegations. These agents who respond have a certain pre-identified list of questions and information that are going to be extremely helpful in identifying the guilty party in these allegations. What we do in that case then is, after we get all the answers, we will contact the local authorities. If they have jurisdiction, or if it is an allegation that occurred within their area of responsibility, then they will respond and participate in the investigation. If this is an allegation that occurred south of the border in a foreign country, then we reach out to our foreign partners in those countries, and we share all the information that we have received, and they in turn open an investigation in those countries.
If you know a victim of a coyote or someone who was victimized on their journey to the U.S., especially if it's right across the border, you're asked to call 911 and report it to law enforcement. Border Patrol will be notified of the outcry, and then Homeland Security Investigations will start investigating. That's all for this week, friends. Thank you for joining us for this segment of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. I'm Jami Virgen for Sinclair Broadcasting in San Antonio, Texas.